voting results.
One time this season, just one race, I want to have a bit of a NASCAR action just to see how they get on. But yeah, we've had everything. We've got the Porsche Cups. We started the season off with the touring cars and with trucks at Crandon. We had the GT3s, the GT4s, and Rallycross. We've ticked off quite a few boxes. So that is, I guess, the aim of Friday Night Primetime, is to be able to go to all these disciplines of racing, and also just to give the community a vote, get everyone involved. And well, we're certainly seeing a lot of that, and it's really good to see.
Absolutely, and if you want to get involved with the votes for next week, get yourself on the RaceSpotTV Discord. At the top, you'll see there's a primetime voting channel, and in there, you will be able to select what you want for next week. Of course, that one is not open yet, but keep your eyes peeled out for when that opens, and you can get yourself involved. And then if you want to obviously race, get inside the top split, and then we will be showing you all the action. But as we said today, we got the Porsche Cup at Spa-Francorchamps. It's going to be, I believe, an 11-lap race, so plenty of racing around here, being over a 2-minute lap time as well. And of course, the massive sort of slipstream and drag battles that can happen around here, coming up through Blanchemont, and of course up the Kemmel Straight out of Radion as well. It's going to be one of those probably more strategic races, Zach, where we're going to see drivers trying to get themselves in a nice position. But as always, there's going to be such a close fight at the front.
We see it pretty much every time we come to this circuit, even in cars where the slipstream maybe is not as prevalent. We saw it with the touring cars to start the season off. It was just trains, 4 or 5 cars long, battling it up the Kemmel Straight towards Les Combes, going at it. We had last lap shootouts. We had really close fights for the race lead, and also for really crucial places, the likes of the podiums, the top 5, the fringes of the top 10, things like that. It is always a good race when you come to a circuit like Spa, especially in cars like these, the Porsche Cup, because it is always just gonna bring out some good racing. Everyone's in the same car. The only difference is going to be the setup, and the majority of the time it is going to be the driver that makes the difference. So you have to sort of step up a little bit, be head and shoulders above the rest. And Spa, again, old school circuit, very difficult in its own right. You have to tame it, the uphill undulation, the downhill undulation, the trickiness, and the limited amount of runoff. All this stuff contributes to what is always a really exciting battle around the Belgian circuit.
Absolutely, and there goes the end of the qualifying session, and we'll be going to the grid already. It's going to, of course, be one of these, on these races in these types of cars where it's more of a spec series. But here is the grid. We'll go through it in a minute. Lamanek is on the pole position with Burke there already on that front row. Koch and Rabuchek there on the second row, followed by Kovalak and Peacock rounding out the top 6. Grovnaka there in 7th place, and Kwiatkowski in 8th place. Lauritsen in 9th, and Vabiki there in 10th place. Kabichi and Kotarski there in 12th place. Apologies for that one. Gradzinski there in 13th place, and Pensky in 14th. Storm and another Kwiatkowski there in 15th and 16th place. Vitvar in 17th place, and Slodjukevicic in 18th place. That's a nice one. Villamu and Miltev there on the penultimate row. We have Lagin Herrigeman and Costa Agredo and Viana at the back. So lots of cool names on this grid of 23 cars rolling you through this 11-lap race at Spa-Francorchamps. It is the Porsche Cup. You have voted for what we are racing today at RaceSpot Friday Night Primetime, and we will be getting the green flag very shortly. And Zach, who are your predictions? What do you think is going to happen coming to turn 1?
Oh, it is always chaos into turn 1. It's a short run, only a couple of 100 meters or so before you're slamming on the brakes to get yourself into La Source. So, and then of course you've got that long run up the Kemmel Straight towards Les Combes. So anything can happen. Expect carnage and chaos all throughout.
Absolutely, and here are the cars coming towards the grid, where of course we'll get a wonderful standing start on the GP straights. Coming down to La Source, it's always a tight and awkward little hairpin that you got to get yourselves around. It's very important though to get the exit, because that runs the massive straight that goes through. And here we are, green flag for Friday night primetime, and this Lamanic there who's going to get away nicely, holding on to that lead, but they're going side by side in towards the braking zone. Drivers trying to work out where they are going to be, and it looks like it's been a nice clean fight though for all of the field getting through that turn one. No major dramas just in this moment in time, but as we come now all the way towards Eau Rouge and Radion, who is going to get that track position, who's going to get that slipstream as we come out through Eau Rouge. It looks like Lamanec's going to be holding on at this moment in time, single file up through Eau Rouge, drivers using all of that track as you would expect, but now the slipstream up towards the Kemmel Straight is going to be the all-important factor around here, up towards Lake Com, and that is certainly going to be where they're going to be getting that slipstream. Lamanec's just going to hold on though. Actually still got some battling in the background.
Yeah, everyone trying to just funnel their way through. We can see there the number 2 machine settling in well. There's a car off, cutting his way across Lake Com. That could get spicy in towards Malmedy. Going to lose 1, 2, maybe even 3 places now on this run as you dip down in towards the braking zone of Rivage. It seems that Lamanec has held on quite nicely from pole position, which isn't, you know, too easy to do, especially at a circle like Spa on the opening laps. But now is crucial to settle in, get into a rhythm, especially at a circle like Spa. Get your head down, try and break away from the pack behind, because now it's like it's do or die, because everyone's so close together. Everyone's going to be battling behind. If Lamanec wants to break away and sort of just have a chilled race by himself, now's the time to do it.
Absolutely, and it's going to be difficult actually to pull away, I'd say, around this track, such as just the nature of it. But this middle sector is the important factor. This is where all the corners are. This is where potentially the drivers who want to go for a bit more grip in the car, a bit more wing on the car, this is where they're going to gain. But of course, coming out through the final couple of corners of Sector 2, out onto the back straight, that is where we're going to see the slipstream for the first real time on this race. 11 laps on the board, as you can see at the top left of your screen. So there'll be 10 to go at the end of this one, but they are of course long laps around here, over 2 minutes in these cars, so plenty of time for these guys to try and work their way up towards the front. And so far they're getting slipstream up towards the final chicane, but no moves just yet.
No moves. They are close, but not quite close enough really to go for much in terms of a move. Actually, here's one, the fight for 5th. You can see Lauritsen, or for 6th, sorry, you can see Peacock losing the place. They're having to tuck in behind. And again, that is the trouble when you're in such a pack, is you've got to be careful when you're fighting for these places, because it's so easy for cars behind to just freight train their way through. As soon as the gap's open on the inside, people are going to come through. There's a car off in the background there, taken off to the runoff area. There's the number 8 machine, and also someone else there. That's Gudzinski now getting his way back underway, going on to lap 2. And yeah, well, again, you know, off the exit of that final chicane, it is always going to be very difficult, but we have to cut back to this live action, because riding on board with Matthias Berg, he's right on the tail of Marek Lamanec, and well, with, you know, 3 and 4 very close together, are they going to fight for the race lead much, or does Berg want to go for it?
Let's see what Berg can do. That slipstream certainly working its way up towards Lake Com for this next time. But actually, just behind, there's been swapping for position for 3rd and 4th place. Kovalak there, I think, just trying to get up to 3rd, but had to drop down in the end in that braking zone as well. So good to see those battles continuing up there inside the top 4 positions. I think these battles are going to stay rather close throughout this race, and it's good to see just how they are pushing the limits already. And we're seeing Rubček there holding on to that 3rd place, just losing a couple of car lengths to the top 2 throughout that batting. So that is one thing you certainly have to take into consideration in a sprint race like this, is losing that time to leaders by having your own little battle.
For sure, and at the moment, you know, Kovalik and Koch are going to just try and work together as a mutual agreement to try and stay with the leaders, but it does get to a point where that desperation starts to kick in. You want to be the leading charge, you know, to try and close the gap to the front too, and it does, you know, as much as you want to be all racecrafty and say like, oh, look at me, I'm being patient, I'm not going for the moves and things like that, because it is so easy to lose time, and then it's quite difficult to gain it back. Kovalak is going to start to think, he's going to start to have doubts if Rybacek can't close that gap to the top 2, but again, that might depend on whether Lamanec and Berg start to battle, because Lamanec seems pretty bulletproof, at least for the opening couple laps. Matthias Berg has not quite been close enough to fabricate a move, and as the laps go on, we've only got 11 laps of racing here. Kovalak, he's not got, you know, an infinite amount of time to get these moves done. He's eventually got to start thinking about himself.
Yes, he certainly does, as drivers all go wide there, coming through. Blanchimont even drives a little bit further down there towards the bottom end of the top 10. They are staying all rather close together, but Laminate there at the front. He's gone deep there in towards the final bust-off chicane, and that is going to give Burke a bit of a run as we come up towards La Source for this third time around. But having to actually drop back in there into second place, so Laminate just being able to hold on. But that is just signs that mistakes are definitely being made in this Porsche Cup car, and that is something that you're going to see potentially throughout this race. But they are just staying so close once again as they come up to Eau Rouge.
Yeah, you've got to be close, but for Burke, maybe too close. He's not going to be able to properly utilise that slingshot shot effect as they go through Eau Rouge, then over the crest at Radion, then up the Kemmel Straight. You can see Burke has got a bit of distance. He might be able to utilise the slipstream to full effect. Maybe a move to the Les Combes chicane. Also, with between Rybicek and Kovalek as they run through as well. Is there going to be a move for either car? You can see there to the right-hand side, maybe for Rybicek. And yeah, Kovalek has been able to get himself to the outside, but he's gone in way too deep. Where's he off to? That is not the way you go through Les Combes by any stretch of the imagination. He's gone all the way to the tarmac runoff on the outside. He's going to lose what is going to be now 5 places down to P8 for Kovalek. And what could have been such a good move. He had it sealed. He was on the outside and ahead, but unfortunately for him, just got a bit too eager on the brakes.
Yeah, and that's dropped him down so many places because, of course, he couldn't come back on the track too fast without a slowdown penalty for that, and that has really taken him out of that battle for the top 3, which is a bit of a shame because he was looking quite nice there, but just too late on the brakes, and that has given Rybicek there quite a nice little lead. But it's now Koch on the back of him, and that is really going to be the next battle. It seems he's closed up that their gap for 4th place, or 3rd place I should say, as well, and he's already turned that into a nice two-way battle once again. 4 cars here pulling away at the front. Peacock about a second and a bit just behind, not quite being able to hold on in this battle, and that is going to be the difficult part to come back from that, but needs to see, because it's definitely those 4 cars in this sort of second train trying to keep up with the leaders.
For sure, and we saw with Kovalek how quick things can change as well. So it could be any of these top 4, maybe even top 5, because Ollie Peacock, he's not a million miles away. Again, if a mistake happens, someone goes in deep, there's a bit of contact, anything of the sort, and things can, very quickly turn on their heads. But with Matthias Berg at the moment showing the pace, his last lap was to the margin around about 0.3 quicker than Laminate. We're going to take a look as to how they compare on this next lap as they cross the start-finish line, who's been the quicker of the two. It has been fairly evenly match, but you have to say that Burke is definitely applying the pressure, not so much on that previous lap because Laminate did get the measure of him, but they're staying so close together, and you have to say that it will get to a point where Laminate starts to feel that pressure.
Yes, he certainly will, and we already saw him made a mistake into that final bust-off chicane, and that is probably going to be one of the most important places just because of how hard it is, and of course, maybe on that final lap going for a dive. But we're already on to lap 4 of 11 here. Burke getting the run up towards Les Combes once again, the massive climb up the Kemmel Straight, and we see in the background as well, Pico there trying to defend Kwiatkowski, getting to the outside. Pico slowing down massively, so he must have got a cut there at the top of Radion, and is going to be dropping down and down already in towards 8th place, and potentially some more positions, but no, that is going to be just enough for him. But Ollie Peacock there dropping outside of that battle for the top 5 and is now down to 8th.
He was the one that was meant to be the person capitalizing on mistakes, not the one making them himself, and that is a big shame. It is again very easy to do. Mistakes do happen, but when you're fighting, for podiums and for race victories, it's those things that you really cannot afford. And unfortunately for him, he's thrown away what could be a top 5. He has still got a couple of cars just in front of him, the likes of Kovalek, Lauritsen, and Kwiatkowski as well, and Jarno Koch not too far ahead either. So with a good over half of this race left to go, not over certainly until it's over. This is riding on board with Laminate, looking back at the train of 3 cars, Berg, Rybicek, and Jarno Koch as well. The top 4 definitely all fighting for first, and this definitely is going to the end. But is Berg, Rybicek, and Koch just biding their time, waiting for an opportunity? Because at the moment, Cam, with how close they are, a move now isn't going to mean all too much.
Yeah, you can always swap it around, but as it stands though, Burke hasn't been able to get enough slipstream to just fly past. He's going to have to work for this one, as he is once again up towards Blanchimont, getting close, almost push drafting him, coming towards this massively fast left-handed corner, famous Blanchimont corner, and then, of course, in towards the bus-stop chicane. Is there going to be any room for a dive? But no, Laminek's actually had a good run through there and able to hold on into that track position. Hasn't made a mistake this time around, and as we come on to start the 5th lap, these top 4 are actually just closing in on each other very slightly. I just want to see what their lap times are as they come across the line. Is there a Lamanick maybe slowing down just a bit? Yeah, he was 4/10 slower this lap than he was last time around. So maybe just a small mistake here and there, just letting the drivers come in behind. And of course, that's going to be the important factor is the consistency, even in a 11-lap race like his.
For sure, you've got to be quick, but you've also got to be consistent. Even in sprint races, you've got to get to the checkered flag to reap the rewards. Maybe it's intentional from Lamanick to back into the pack of wolves behind, to force them to battle, and then he can use that to get away. It's risky for sure, but definitely it can work. You can see there, Jarno Koch looking to eye up the move for third place. Lamanick going sort of semi-defensive. There's the move for Koch looking to the right-hand side, not quite close enough in towards Lecom, but again, just filling the rearview mirrors, trying to put that pressure on. I would argue he's probably in one of the best positions of this train because he's only got to look forwards. He's not got the problem of everyone else in front of him having to look backwards to defend. All he knows is to overtake and look forward.
Absolutely, although there's a bit of a mistake once again. Lamanick going a little bit wide there and just getting half a thought for Burke to try and get a run. But of course, this part of the track is the difficult part to get close through those couple of corners. They are sort of the tighter, closer corners on the track before it opens up down the hill here towards the double apex of Pouhon. And it's a little breakaway actually between those top two. Rubicek hasn't been able to hold on through this middle sector thus far, but of course that generally seems to come back together as we get towards the latter parts of the lap once again. And this race, of course, flying by week 6 here of the RaceSpot Friday night prime time, halfway through the season already. And you will be able to get your vote for week 7 next week. Check out the RaceSpot Discord into the Primetime voting channel the week coming, and then you'll be able to vote for what you want next week. But today, of course, it is the Porsche Cups, and at the moment is Lamanick leading the way as he has done from the start. He's only made one mistake, but Burke is getting closer and closer throughout this race, and once again almost pushing him out towards Blanchard, maybe trying to pull away actually to make this a two-way battle to try and get away from Rubicek behind. But as it stands, can Burke get a run up towards the inside of the bus stop chicane? He hasn't been this close just yet, but though just doesn't decide to dive down the inside, and then that leads the two behind to catch up.
Yeah, for Burke, if he does want to pull away, which is fair enough, it's much easier to win a 1v1 than it is, you know, a 1v3 as it is. But you saw that any gap they managed to pull out, just because he pulled to the right-hand side, then pulled back in and sort of, you know, backed out of that move, allowed Rubicek and Koch to close the gap back up. So it is all in vain for him. He's probably better off just sending the move, going for the move, because then what it could do is close Rubicek and Koch up enough to then start battling with Lamanick, which in turn is going to allow Burke to close the gap open the gap, by default. But again, we'll have to wait and see. He's very close up the hill through Eau Rouge and Radion, now up the Kemmel straight. He is practically pushing him through the right-hand kink, now completely straight. And is Lamanick going to go defensive? Is Burke going to go for the move? You have to say he's not too interested. It's more so the fight between Koch and Rubicek into Lecom, side by side between the pair of them. Rubicek on the outside, going to leave him to dry and manage to get that one stuck. And still Koch having to play second fiddle and stay behind. But this is the gap that Burke wants. He wants these two to continue to fight so he can just have that 1v1 with Lamanick.
Yeah, it's weird how this battle is shaping up and sort of not quite going the way I was expecting. I did expect Burke to maybe try and get a move, but it seems like he has actually been sitting behind, whereas in reverse, Koch is actually trying to make this move for third place, but he can't seem to be bold enough on the brakes there into Lecom, and I wonder if that's going to change. Maybe he's going to have to slightly change his style through turn 1 to try and get a better run maybe up the hill on the next lap around.
Yeah, and again, it's a weird one when you're fighting impacts because it is such a waiting game of sorts. But you can see there Kwiatkowski already onto the back of Koch, and he's actually sort of in a sense brought the likes of Lauritsen and Kovalak back into it. If the number 3 machine could get back into this fight, that would definitely be interesting. We have just ticked over the sort of the halfway mark in this race, on to lap 6 of 11. Still a long way to go, but they are starting to eye up now. They're in the latter half of this race. This is where moves start to matter just a little bit more, because if you can get a move sealed, it could definitely, you know, make the difference. Because early on, you know, it's overtaken or they're going to get overtaken back, but now they're running out of opportunities to launch that counter attack, and sort of now you have to say it is do or die.
It certainly is, as we're now getting a 5-way battle at the front. Kwiatkowski has joined the back of this battle, and I just wonder if Lamanick is maybe it's only probably a couple of tenths here and there, but maybe just slightly slower, pulling these guys behind because they're not really batting. Burke isn't slowing down Lamanick in that way with the battles, but they are obviously just closing in. So I think he might be the slightly slower one. And that is certainly a good observation for that, because Burke has got the massive run out of last source. But is he too close, actually? Is he going to be too close to get the massive overspeed and slingshot that you need with that slipstream up towards the Kemmel Straight this time around? Is Burke going to be quite close enough through the kink, and once again getting closer and closer up towards Les Combes? Is going to finally dive down the inside, or is going to sit behind once again as Lemonade slightly defends to the inside to show him not to dive and do anything stupid? And yeah, it looks like Burke is definitely just sitting there for now, not doing anything too aggressive.
Could be a lack of confidence for Burke. Maybe he doesn't want to risk it. At the moment, he's in second place. He's like, oh, sweet, this is chill. I'm not doing too bad in second place. He doesn't want to risk it because he knows there's a train of cars. If he has a spin, he could well and truly be outside of the top 10, maybe even further. He's chill in second place, so he doesn't want to, do anything to compromise that. I've seen it before in go-karting and in other series of people that are content with the position they're in. Maybe they don't want to go for those moves, but again, you're a racing driver. You've got a chance for a race lead. Surely, naturally, you want to go for it. Maybe he's just waiting for that high percentage chance move, piling the pressure on, waiting for that mistake from Lemonade. But again, the longer he waits, the more he's at risk of missing out on both the race lead, but also from being overtaken from behind. And if he gets overtaken by one and gets knocked out of his rhythm, not only has he got Rybicik to come through, he's then got Jarno Koch, Jacob Kwiatkowski, Alexander Lauritsen, and even, Kovalak as well. If he gets overtaken by one, it could very quickly spiral into being overtaken by many.
Yeah, you're definitely right. It's probably that point of the race where you're not going to be striving to make the massive overtakes, but of course you do want to be keeping yourself in the position to be able to do so. And so far, Burke is doing that nicely, just sitting behind, but obviously pushing him along, but also just staying there in case anything happens. And with the drivers behind catching up, this could turn into a 7-way battle on the final lap. We've got Lauritsen and Kovalak who are catching up there in P6 and P7. And it's certainly going to be a close battle in the final few laps. 5 to go as we come across the line, and it's 4 to go, of course, as the timing line is a little bit later around this track, and that is certainly going to be the interesting points of the race now. When are these guys going to finally make the move? Are they going to do it late? Are they going to do it early? Are they going to show their hand, or are they going to wait for a last lap dive? That is, of course, the strategic factor that these drivers need to work out. And once again, Burke staying very close up towards the front. We're not really expecting him to make the move at this moment in time, but we'll have to see if he changes his mind on that one this time around, getting closer and closer once again, pulling away from that third place driver, and just doing enough to try and keep them in a good position for when we get to that final lap, final couple of opportunities.
Oh, for sure, and it is definitely going to start to heat up because, again, what have we got? We've got the top three, then we've got Koch and Kwiatkowski, then we've got Lauritsen and Kovalak, and then Ollie Peacock not too far behind that. You can see a good, most of the top 10 in one frame of shot as they head in towards Rivage out of the exit of Malmedy. You could see a good number of cars. All it takes is a bit of contact to really, really spice things up. Of course, that is a bit outlandish to think that, Ollie Peacock's going to win this race or something, but hey, it's a possibility. You don't want to push any false narratives or things like that, give out some false hopes, but it could happen. With how this race has gone, with how crazy motor racing can be, sometimes it's not too outlandish to think, but you have to say the main fight is amongst the top 4, and well, seriously, I don't know who's going to take it. I think it definitely is going to be decided on that final couple laps where it really does start to count.
And that's where the drivers will be starting to take some risks as well, because as the laps go down, of course, the opportunities and the potential opportunities go down, and therefore you start having to take more risk. You have to be more aggressive. You have to try and be more assertive with the moves, and that, of course, is where mistakes happen, or where accidents happen, where drivers don't want to give you any millimetre that they can. As we come to Blanchimont once again, getting a nice view of the front bumper there of Burke, going through that massively fast left-hander, as we say, and this has really turned into a 7-way battle now. The drivers are staying so close, and these guys are just going to go so crazy when we get to that final lap. And Zach, I have to ask you the question, do you think there's going to be a stellar move for this, or do you think it's going to get a bit argy-bargy?
I really hope there is a really stellar move indeed. It would be epic to see, but again, it could get a little bit argy-bargy. We might have to see just how it plays out. Again, it depends on how desperate these guys are to go for the win. Again, that could work both ways. Maybe they're desperate enough to go for that stellar move. Maybe they're too desperate and send a move in a bit too deep, try and be a hero, end up being zero. But again, we'll have to see. Because once again, Burke very, very close up the hill, now down up the Kemmel Straight, I should say. Sorry, I don't want Paul Smith shouting shouting at me after the broadcast, but Berg still very, very close indeed, and Lemonek definitely moving, migrating over to the right-hand side of the circuit. There's Rybicek as well, just moving, trying to spot his braking point. That's how close it is at this point. Everyone having to move out to spot their braking point. Single file, bumper to bumper to bumper as they run their way through Les Combes. And yeah, again, we don't know. It's so cliche to say, but it could go either way.
Certainly, it's interesting how this obviously has worked out. Now, as we were mentioning, obviously this sort of been backed up a little bit by Lemonek, and with how close these drivers are, it is literally just a 10th here, 10th there. But of course, he got that pole position, but then is maybe the drivers behind are actually faster in the race conditions just by those couple of tenths, and that is why these guys are just backing into each other. As we mentioned before, Lemonek isn't really being slowed down with the way Berg is. If anything, he's been helped, being pushed along with a bit of aero push as well. So certainly that hasn't been really a factor. I do think Lemonek maybe doesn't have quite the pace, but at this moment in time, he's got the track position, and we think he's going to have the racecraft to be able to hold on to this. It's just when this starts getting crazy on that last lap, is there going to be enough width in that Porsche Cup to be able to cover the track enough for Matthias Berg to not get past? We'll have to find out, of course, coming up to 2 laps to go. So just a bit over 4 minutes left in the race when we get to the start-finish line. As Berg now once again gets it the run up towards Blanchimont corner, and a very, very close drive, but can't quite stay close enough this time around, of course, as we are expecting him just to be a bit calmer at this moment in time. But as you see on the last lap, the drivers, although that's actually a massive send there from Koch round the outside and up towards third place, and in the background actually as Kwiatkowski is trying to get a run out of this final corner. Looks like Rybicek there had a bit of a bad run through Blanchimont and getting almost pushed out of the way a little bit with Koch in terms of track position, and now Kwiatkowski diving out the inside in towards last source. Room given between the two side by side on the exit contact though. Kwiatkowski doesn't get the run, and I think that is going to allow Rybicek there to hold on as we come down towards Eau Rouge.
Brilliant move there from Koch, and there's Lauritsen also trying to go for the move side by side as they run their way through. You can see Lauritsen there just choosing life, deciding to back out of that one. He might have the run now as they head in towards the Camel Kink, opting to go to the right-hand side. It will give him the inside of Les Combes when they do arrive there. This is the fight for 5th place. Kwiatkowski stuck on the outside. He turned offense into defense. Also, Lemonek looking to defend his race lead. Here's Lauritsen trying to go to the inside. Kwiatkowski left on the outside. Bit of contact once more, and Kovalak trying to find his way through. They're running towards Malmedy. There's the inside gap open up, not quite opened up enough for Kovalak to force his way through. But again, those are the moments that can really decide. Oh my word, the dive into Ravage. He's going to squeeze his way through. What a move from Kwiatkowski, up in a 5th place. That is what you like to see on the penultimate lap.
Oh, there's some aggression coming up between these drivers now as the laps start to count down. 2 to go, massively wide out of Speaker's corner, and Kwiatkowski there, he almost had 4th place, went to 6th, and is now somehow back up to 5th. But is it actually diving it down the inside once again? Lauritsen, Kwiatkowski goes massively wide. That's going to allow Kovalak to come past as well. These guys starting to get elbows out because they know the opportunities are running out. Kwiatkowski is going to dive down the inside. You'd expect so with just how aggressive they have been coming through the final chicane once again. And Kwiatkowski now down to 7th place. He was almost in 4th, now down to 7th, all in the space of 1 sector. And that is why you have to choose your time wisely and make that track position count. Otherwise, you just drop, and he's now at the back of this train.
You've got to make sure. That's why they've been so careful throughout this whole race, is because of the fear of something like this happening for Kwiatkowski. It's been such a shame. But as we run on to the final lap of this race, towards the final lap, the penultimate time as they run their way through Blanchimont, Back very, very close indeed. Is he going to go for this end in towards the bus stop chicane? You can definitely see he's having a bit of a look. Lemonek is not phased by the pressure at all. And then they run through the bus stop chicane onto the final lap of this race. Koch could be a outside chance in this race if Lemonek and Berg, start tripping over each other just a little bit in towards La Source for the final time. Is Berg going to go for the send? No, he's going to wait for that run. Koch with the slipstream. Could we see 3 wide? Oh, Lemonek's gone in deep. Berg could have the run.
He certainly could. Final lap time between these drivers. Lemonek's holding that lead for the whole race so far. Up towards Eau Rouge, side by side. One of these is going to have to back out. Looks like Berg's going to be holding it up the inside. Huge moment, side by side, up through Radion between between these two. And now see Cock 3 wide as we come through the kink. Cock's gone to the front, third to first on this final lap. And now we see Lamnek drop down to third place and possibly even had a slowdown there. He's massively slowing. He's out of the battle for this lead. And somehow Cock has got himself to the front. He was in fourth place for so long in this race. But now Kwiatkowski diving it to the inside once again as he's pushing Kovalak out of the way side by side through this Les Comps chicane up towards Malmedy corner. Still side by side between the two. It's final lap time. Elbows out between these drivers. They do not want to give up any sort of space at all. It is still side by side. Kwiatkowski doesn't want to give up this one. He has potentially in a fourth place, but he's now going down towards sixth, potentially seventh place. Round the outside now goes Kovalak. Kovalak still there up the inside of Speaker's corner. Lovely racing between the two. No contact. Kwiatkowski gets the worst exit now as he comes down towards Pouan.
Oh my word, still side by side is Kwiatkowski going to try and go the long way round a Pouan corner. Not quite. That definitely would have been brave. There's Ollie Peacock as well, just in the background, but what a move from Jarno Koch there. He played that to perfection. He knew they were going to run out wide. He knew they were going to be slow, and he capitalized on it. Said, all right, in a bit, guys, I'm off. I'm now into the race lead. Now it's on Matthias Berg to try and get himself back into contention for that race lead. He's got one more opportunity, have to argue, Cam, down in towards the bus stop chicane through Curve Paul Frere for the final time. The last flat out section of the circuit. Can Berg do it?
Berg sat in second place for so long. He had his opportunity to get towards the front, but it's Koch who actually went round the both of them, and Berg is still in second place, just with a different driver ahead of him. Final lap time, final opportunity up towards the braking zone, in towards the bus stop, but can we see Berg do anything coming up towards this final corner? Doesn't look like it. It's going to be Jarno Koch coming out to the final corner to somehow take victory there, with Berg not being able to hold on in this final lap. Jarno Koch wins week 6 here for the RaceSpot Friday night prime time after an enthralling final couple of laps. Lamnek dropping down to fourth place behind Rubicek, who had a good race himself. Lauritsen gets in fifth place with Kovalak and Kwiatkowski rounding out the top 7. Those 7 giving us some nice battles throughout this race, and Peacock in 8th place as we see further drivers coming through to finish this race. And as we expected, Zach Sweeney, that was a chaotic final couple of laps. As soon as he got to that bus stop chicane with a couple of laps to go, they just started going for every single overtake they could.
It was brilliant. It was awesome. It was amazing. It was stellar. It was anything you can throw at that race. It had it. It was it was the whole race building up, the tension, the suspense, leaving us suspended in that anticipation of when is it going to happen? Is it going to happen? And then it got to lap 10. It got to lap 11, and these guys just went for it, gloves off, and just completely threw punches at each other side by side through Eau Rouge and Radion for the race lead. Koch then was able to capitalize it 3 wide on the final lap. It was amazing, and hopefully we're going to take another look at that last lap, because there was a lot to dissect, and yeah, they made us wait for it, but it was definitely worth it.
So let's see here. Lemnek there on the outside, just having not the best exit. Burt getting a massive run up the inside, and he's got a big opportunity, or big decision, I should say. Now, does he back out and try and get the slipstream, but therefore he will lose his momentum and Cox's going to get him anyway? Or does he stay side by side, which Lemnek gives him the room to do so? But either way, they slow each other down. Cox massively getting that perfectly right, because he had the track position at the perfect time. Lemnek, though, unfortunately going off, getting that slow down, that brought him out of this race, and somehow Berg remains in P2. He P2 that whole time. He never got up to first, just had a switcheroo around him, and that was certainly well-timed, good track position there from Jarno Koch, and managed to really just show why sometimes in this in these series you don't want to either be at the front for the whole race, or even on that final lap. And there is confirmation, Jarno Koch there winning by just 0.3 of a second from Matthias Berg. Rucek in third place with Lamanek there, who of course led most of the race but wasn't able to hold on. Lauritsen there in fifth, and Kovalak and Kwiatkowski in 6 and 7. They gave us an awesome battle on that final lap as well. Ollie Peacock almost getting back up to where he was after that little bit of an issue earlier on, and Kuritsky and Grzoka there for the top 10, and of course the other drivers will be rolling you down there. And in the end, we only ended up with 18 drivers on the lead lap, Zach. Such is the way that this racing can go, and Matthias Berg getting the fastest lap on lap 2. Such is the way that they battled as well. But that was certainly a very enthralling race at Spa, and can't wait to see what these guys do next week.
Oh yeah, for sure. Friday night prime time. It's the date on my calendar that I look forward to each week, and it just delivers. And we saw, 9 times out of 10, we were saying, you said it a little bit earlier on, just sort of towards the last stage of the race, is that even though you're the fastest man on track, you're not guaranteed to win. Matthias Berg took the fastest lap of that race. He was the quickest man on track, but he didn't win because he didn't quite position his car well enough. He wasn't confident enough to go for the moves. He didn't grab the opportunity with both hands in order to capitalize on it. Jarno Koch, he wasn't by any means the quickest guy, but he was there. He was quick enough to put himself in that fight, and then when the opportunity arose, he was like, all right then, sweet, this is my opportunity, this is my time to shine, I'm coming through. And that's why he was able to take the win. And yeah, as I say, they made us wait for a lot of action, but they really did deliver a very dense last couple of laps in terms of racing action. It was awesome to see, and to mark the halfway point of this season, I don't think we could have done much better.
Absolutely not. But as Zach says there, we are not done with this season. 6 races to go. And as we are doing this season on Friday night prime time, you can have your vote with what we broadcast. There'll be another vote on the RaceSpot Discord in the primetime voting channel at the top. When that goes live with the options for next week, get your vote on there. And if you want to get yourself racing as well, try and get inside the top split. And then we'll be broadcasting that next Friday. But that is it here for the Porsche Cup at Spa-Francorchamps for week 6. Jarno Koch there coming out on top after that amazing final lap. Can you be winning yourself next week? We will find out. So until then, we wish you a very warm goodbye.